Thank you both of you for such warm introductions. And thank you, Aurelie and Bernie, for reaching out to me and involving me in this. And thank you to all of you for getting as comfortable as you can get and sitting down and listening to us for a little while. I'm going to just say again that my name is Tam. My pronouns are they, them. I am a white trans person. I am currently living without disability, and I live in Glasgow in Scotland. And I am sharing the stage with this fabulous person, Julio, a white cis man who is based in northern Germany. And we're going to talk a little bit more together after I've done a little bit of blah, 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 blah towards you. Then we're going to have a discussion. But I just quickly want to describe ourselves for anyone who is having trouble seeing, has difficulties seeing for whatever reason. I have short blonde hair. I have 2 little plaits. I am 41 years old, if that helps you visualize me. I am wearing a black silk top with black shorts, and I have some tattoos. And Julio, we're sitting next to each other on the stage on red seats, and Julio is a 30-year-old man. He has long, gorgeous brown hair, a very charming smile, as was mentioned. He's wearing a lovely brown jumper. He looks quite warm. I look cooler beside him. And he's also wearing blue jeans. Yeah, I think that can work as a visual description. And then I also just want to say thank you to the majority of you here who are listening to me, a native English speaker, in what I imagine for you is not your first language. If I speak quickly, as I may do, as I get nervous, then please just slow me down. You can slow me down with a hand gesture. I will try to speak as simply as possible, but if you need somebody to clarify what I'm saying, then please don't worry about asking someone nearby if they have an idea of what I've said. Yeah, it's very welcome. And whilst I'm giving you gratitude for the additional labor that all of you are doing this weekend this week in communicating and making it, sharing this international language, I also just want to acknowledge that this language, this English that we're speaking, is the language of, or a language of coloniality. It's a language of imperialism. And it's convenient, of course, for us to talk in English, to connect more quickly, but convenience is So convenience, is that working? Convenience is often used as an excuse to justify oppression. And so I want to acknowledge the thousands of languages that are going extinct. Right now, on this planet, we have 7,000 languages, and over 3,000 of them are endangered. And this is because of the dominance of English, of Spanish, and of Mandarin. So maybe we can just hold a moment to grieve the impact of these colonizing languages. Thank you. Okay, so over the next hour, we're going to consider and feel into how we are readying ourselves to imagine the future, how we are preparing ourselves in our imaginations, in our movements, in our tissue to imagine the future. What kind of future are our present actions committing us to? The present ways of thinking that we have, the present systems that we are not doing a good enough job of disrupting. And how can we these people here in this field, how can we stretch beyond the limits of our imagination, our colonized imaginations, to imagine and then to create a future that is more just, that is more loving, that is more caring, and that is more liberated. So before I begin, we are going to go together into a journeying, a visualization, a meditation. And as with so many somatic practices that we use in the West, there are aspects of this somatic practice that are borrowed from indigenous cultures, and I want to acknowledge that. I'm going to invite everyone to close their eyes, but maybe whilst you're preparing yourself to do that, whilst you're getting comfortable, we're going to be about 10 minutes or even 15 with our eyes closed, so please do whatever you need to do to feel comfortable. Whilst you're preparing, I want you to connect with the child in you whose imagination is unbridled, whose imagination is free. The child in you who can spend hours with a cardboard box, who can create worlds at the end of their garden. The child in you who has imaginary friends, who has an imaginary universe. And just as you're connecting to that child in you, how does your body feel? Can you remember this child in you? Can you invite it to wake up, to take some control of your human adult body? Does it feel exciting? Do you feel a shortening of your breath? Do you feel trepidatious, a little bit anxious? Do you feel joy? Just allow this childlike imagination to open up in you. And now we're going to breathe a little together. So I'm going to lead you a little bit. And I just invite you to become aware of your breath, of the cool air entering through your nose, through the expansion of your chest as your lungs expand, and then the warm air leaving through your mouth or through your nose. And just feel yourself breathing, you who are an individual but who are sharing this breath with this field, with the people in this field, and through this air, this element we share, connecting to every single living thing. And as you're breathing in and out, I just want you to become aware of the expansion that happens in your chest as you breathe in. And as your chest is expanding, I want you to bring some awareness to your heart, this area beneath your chest bone, beneath your lungs. And just keep breathing in and out and feel this expansion of the area around your heart, and just check in with your heart. This tender organ, this powerful muscle that has been beating even before you were born, that has powered you, strengthened you, given you courage, and brought you to this moment that your whole life has been leading up to. And just give thanks to your heart for carrying you here. And if it helps, I've had my hand on my heart a while now. Sorry, didn't tell you you could do that. If it helps to place a hand on your heart so that you can bring some warmth from your hand to your heart, to your chest space, and just allow that warmth to spread, that glow, and give thanks to your heart. And then you can leave your hand on your heart or you can place it somewhere else. And we're just going to quickly scan through our bodies. I'm sure you're all experts at this. So imagining that at the crown of your head, there is a golden thread that is shooting up to the heavens, and it's allowing an extension of your spine. It's allowing your skeleton to sort of hang free from this gorgeous golden thread. And just feel that elongation right from the top of the crown of your head all the way down through your body. And we're just going to give permission to different areas of our body to relax. So we're beginning with the crown of our head, all of the muscles in our skin that are stretched around our skull. Just give permission, give instruction for those muscles to relax. And as we scan down to our temples, the area on the sides of our foreheads, where so much tension is held, just give this area permission to relax, to release tension. Down into our jaws. You might feel your mouth open a little bit as you release the tension in your jaw. And then down into your chin, down into your neck and shoulders. Oh yeah, I can really drop my shoulders. Just allow that drop in your shoulders as you tell your shoulder muscles and your neck muscles to relax. And down your arms, the length of your arms, and down into your hands. Give permission for the muscles in your hands to relax. Down your torso, your chest, your back, into your butt. Feel the tension releasing down through your legs, your knees, your calves, into your ankles and then your feet. And just allow all of the tension to flood out from you and trust the earth to hold it. And as we release this tension into the earth, maybe we place a hand onto the earth and we thank it for holding us, for letting us release our tension into it, for being so much bigger than we are, and also for containing us, for allowing us to be part of it. And we just thank the earth. So now is the time to use those gorgeous imagination muscles, this beautiful brain that we were told about on the first day, this brain that is our evolutionary capacity, that has allowed us to survive without claws, without teeth, through our ability to communicate, to share dreams, and to build those dreams together. And I just want you to sit here in this tent, in this field, and to connect with what your body can hear, what your skin can feel, the sounds, the tastes. And from this place where you are sitting, to imagine 20 years into the future. To travel so quickly 20 years into the future. And I invite you in this 20-year future environment to be sitting in a gathering, a Gen Europe gathering. Maybe it's not called Gen Europe anymore. And to imagine how it feels to be in this future. The climate is changing. The politics is changing. We have changed as well. I want you to taste the flavors in your mouth in this future. I want you to sense the feelings on your skin. I want you to listen for the sounds, for the bird song. And as we're sitting in this imagined future, have an imaginary look around. Who's here? Who's with us in this imagined future? And I spoke at the beginning about the colonial language of English. A black feminist thinker called Adrienne Marie Brown describes how the present we are living in was imagined 400 years ago by white, patriarchal, powerful men in Western Europe. And we are, in some ways, living in the imaginary that they created, that they enforced. Now, as we sit here and imagine into 20 years in the future, I want us to notice how our privileges inform what we are able to imagine. I am a white person, and my whiteness exists in my tissue, it exists in my movements, and it exists in my imagination. This is true for everyone who has been touched by white supremacy, whether or not they are white, but white people have more of a responsibility to decolonize. So if you're white like me, then just notice whether this future that you're imagining, how it's been informed by the whiteness of your imagination. If you're heterosexual, just notice how this future has been informed by the dominance of your heterosexuality. If you're a man, just notice how this future and your place within it has been informed by patriarchy. And together, we're going to try to do something that will have power far beyond this field. Within our imaginations, we are going to try to make space for the black imagination, for the trans imagination, for the queer imagination, for the indigenous imagination, for the Muslim imagination, for the refugee imagination, for the disabled imagination, for the fat imagination, and for many other imaginations. And as we make space in this future we are imagining, as we make space in our imagination for these othered imaginations or these other imaginations, feel how it changes the future that you have imagined yourself into. Feel how it changes your position within that future. And feel how it changes the work that you will need to do to make that future happen. Now, notice within your imagination that there is somebody sitting next to you. A warm presence, a kind presence, a loving, caring presence. Feel this person sitting next to you. And if you want to lean into them a little bit, lean into them a little bit, and imagine them taking your weight joyfully, cherishing you, loving you. And as you turn to look at who this person is, you realize that this person is you 20 years from now. And look into their eyes. And in your imagination, ask them the question, what did you have to surrender? What did you have to give up? What did you have to let go of so that I could build this future? and listen to their response and let their response unfold in you. Okay, we're gonna return to Earth, guys, or return to this present moment. So maybe just hold yourself a little as you open your eyes. Maybe put your hands on your knees, on your arms, give yourself a little rub. If you need to do a little stretching or a little rotation of any uncomfortable limbs, maybe your butt's gone to sleep and you need to wiggle it a little bit to get some blood back into it. And then have a look at these people who you are with, who you are building, have been building a collective future with. So I am going to really soon, I'm going to introduce Julio, or I'm going to have a conversation with Julio, but I just wanted to give you a little bit more about me and a little bit more about my experience of living in a future that I didn't know was possible, that I couldn't have believed was possible in the past. And at this point, I am going to talk about suicide. It's going to be brief, but if this is something that you don't need to hear, that you don't want to listen to, then please go somewhere and maybe take someone with you so that they can care for you. I'll just give people a moment to move around. So I think I want to talk to you about feeling trapped in a dominant imagination. And I want to tell you a little bit about how it was as a trans child to feel trapped in a world that has been defined and created by the heterosexual imagination. And this is just my experience. And there will be so many other marginalized people's experiences of living in a world, and many of those identities will be reflected here and held by you, of living in a world where there is no space for you. And so I grew up in the 1980s in London. Margaret Thatcher was my prime minister. And I am a trans person, and I was a trans child. And to give some context, right now there are better statistics than there were back then, but right now trans children are trying to die by suicide. 1 in every 2 to 3 trans child has tried to die by suicide. And 70 to 80% of trans children think of suicide. And this isn't because there's something wrong with trans children. It's because trans children cannot imagine a future where there is a space for them because of the dominance of the heterosexual and cis imagination and the world that it has created. I'm not laying shade. I'm not placing blame. Like, this is the culture that we are creating and that we're participating in and that we need to unravel. And I might surprise people because I am a very joyful person, but I was one of those children. When I was 11, I tried to die by suicide. And I am delighted that I wasn't successful. And I want to tell you about why I'm delighted that I wasn't successful. And the reason why I'm delighted is because trans people and queer people forever have been imagining a world where there is a place for me. They've been imagining a world where I can access trans healthcare, where I can change my body into the body that I want and that is mine, where I can go to the toilet that suits my gender, but so much more than these, where I can just really exist and not have to worry or feel danger or feel scared. And so I'm asking all of us, and there are many spaces where with my white middle class privilege, I can do this for other people, that we get behind the imaginations of our marginalized people so that we can support their imaginations to flourish into realities so that people can exist and that they can build the futures that we will also flourish in. You know, if you want a good future, build the future for the most marginalized person, because that will mean that you are also being looked after. What does this mean? Does this mean that I'm just looking at the time? I have one other story before I start talking to Julio. Do I have time to tell it? Oh, well, this is fantastic. Okay, so this second story that I'm going to tell you is about Extinction Rebellion. And it's really a story about how groups of people in gatherings like this, or in much smaller gatherings, like we heard from the gentleman who was part of the founding of this movement, how groups of people make extraordinary realities happen. And also that we are limited in what we do by our imaginations. It was interesting to hear that this movement was begun by a predominantly male group. You know, that's a lot of patriarchy that we need to be undoing if our founders are 90% men. And for Extinction Rebellion, I was part of the group of people. Extinction Rebellion emerged from many movements, and those movements emerged from many movements, and those movements emerged from many movements. But with Extinction Rebellion, I just want to tell you about sitting in a room in a small town in England called Stroud. And I was sitting in that room. There was quite a lot of queer representation in that room, but we were a room uniformly white people in that room. And we were imagining what it would be to go to the UK Parliament and declare civil disobedience, declare a time of civil unrest. And we were going to call that event, that one event at Parliament, Extinction Rebellion. And we got planning, and we started going around the country, and we divided the country into sections, and I took the southeast section. And so for about 4 months, I went to community groups, I went to village halls, I went to Green Party gatherings, I went to, you know, the kind of usual suspects of the environmental movement. And we were also talking at a moment when the IPCC report had just come out saying we had 12 years left to stop climate change. I don't actually know how many years we've got left according to that report. 4. Thank you, Martin. And we were also doing this organizing in the summer that Greta Thunberg was refusing to go to school, was on school strike outside the Swedish parliament. And so I think Celine spoke about the fact that movements, you prepare for the movement to happen. You don't know when the escalation moment is going to happen, but you just do the work as hard as possible all the time so that when that escalation moment happens, you're ready for an enormous groundswell, and you're ready to capture all of that interest and to transform it into political action that has results. And so I was down in the southeast of England doing the job of basically gathering people to be arrested on that first day, on that first event of Extinction Rebellion, and getting people to pledge, to commit to be arrested. And as it turns out, like that worked really well. We gathered maybe 2,000 people for that first event, and then we were duly arrested. And then we had this 2 weeks of rebellion in Parliament Square. And then the next April, we had these, you know, a boat in Oxford Circus, and we shut down the whole of London. And it was hugely exciting. But a blind spot that we had as organisers was that this focus on arrest meant that our sites weren't safe for people who have good reason to fear the police. We were unconsciously creating a movement that depended on white privilege. We could have done it differently. Civil disobedience and the courage to be arrested is not new. Definitely wasn't created by white people. And we could have spoken to those lineages, and we could have distinguished what we were doing and what we were able to do and spoken about our privilege, but we didn't do that. We just unthinkingly created a theory of change that depended on white privilege. So I'm just encouraging all of us to recognize what our imaginations are both capable of, a global movement called Extinction Rebellion, but also the limits of them and the blind spots in them. Okay, so now I'm going to turn and talk to Julio a little bit. Do you have a microphone? Great. So yes, I'm very fortunate to be sharing the stage with this very fabulous man. And he is, I think I said that he's representing Next Gen, which is the youth wing of Gen. And I'm going to ask him some questions, and then we're going to kind of talk about the answers. And we're hoping to end in good time for you also to make comments and to talk to us. So I think, first of all, I'm just interested in how this imagining exercise went for you.
Yeah, okay, it works. Well, there was so much. I think the first feeling I had when you said go back into your child body, I just felt myself, lying in German it's Kinderwagen, but when you are pushed by your parents in this kind of trolley, and you can just lie there and look in the trees and see the leaves, and I felt such a peace and such a gentleness also going back to that imagination that I've stored in my body, and it felt so good. And then, yeah, I'm very impacted what you shared last. So I don't know, the exercise already feels a bit distant in some way. Yeah, but what was so strong for me was the question, or like this feeling of making space for other imaginations. And thinking back at also the first day where we had Celine on stage talking about organizing, and also this question, who are actually our people? Like, who are we kind of together with on this mission to create a more just world with communities in different forms rooted in place, where people's needs are met and planetary needs are met. And yeah, I think also in conversation with some young people during the gathering, I was realizing that actually, and also by visiting the workshop from Gen Africa, about Gen Africa, and also having Talia share about her culture and traditions, made me realize we could have, in theory, millions of allies all around the world, people still living community in ways that we have unlearned to live across Africa, large parts of Asia, Latin America. And often we don't even realize what magnitude, or like how many of them there are. And not only there, also in Europe. And just to give one number, Romania, where I was a few years ago, has 2 million, and that's the highest number of Europe, 2 million small-scale farmers. And they also have the highest biodiversity in Europe. And just being there, being in the villages, seeing the gardens, experiencing the way that the elders are often still taken care of, the way that neighborly relations work, the way that there are local markets in many of the small cities that actually offer local produce. for me, this was one of the most changing experiences. And I think that these 2 million farmers have an impact that is so much bigger than also the eco-villages we create, which doesn't make the impact of us small, but one has to see it in relation also.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, folks be recognizing you and what you're saying. So maybe we can talk a little bit about the role that you think eco-villages do play in heralding this future, in holding this future, in creating this future that we're imagining.
Yeah. I think this is something that we were also, as a group of young people, I've talked with some people about it. And I think something that I sensed also as a primary school teacher working with teens, 11 and 12 years old, that there's such a big amount of young people that actually feel such a deep hopelessness that they don't even dare to imagine. So they feel it is not even realistic to think about a better future, so they don't even do it. And for me, experiencing the Ecovillage movement, it kind of created cracks of possibility, like seeing moments of also being with other people that I've never experienced before in my life. You know, just relating also to one another in ways that we are all longing for, but kind of that where spaces don't exist for that in mainstream society. And these kind of, I had this feeling that there were these cracks of, I don't know, glimpses of possibility in my heart that were like necessary for me to imagine. So I think that's one of the biggest strengths that I've felt for myself, and I think also for many young people, and probably many people that also have been to the gatherings. And yeah.
Yeah, seeing so much warmth for this and for this community that you speak about as well. Like, I'm just 11 years older than you. But like, I know how easy it is to feel. He's changing this one. Yeah. Yeah, so there's this person is saying that we're bringing so much energy, that there's a lot of energy from the 40-year-olds, the 50-year-olds, the 60-year-olds, but that also there's this emerging strength and power of the young people. And yeah, like this is something to release. And I think like what you're saying about the hopelessness, yeah, like, I mean, I resonate with this, of course. And I think all of us are navigating our relationship with hope and hopelessness all of the time, and it's such a hard dance to do. And I think there's something like we've heard about. We've heard about. I think there's something that people. I'm trying to remember the writer that maybe you were bringing up. Oh, not Mary Oliver. What's she called? Yeah, Joanna Macy. Thank you so much. About kind of who we are becoming when we dare to hope. And I think that this time is inviting all of us to act with hope, even without the promise of a happy ending. And I think, you know, our culture has it's created such a Disneyfied version of like the quest and where we're aiming for, and that you have to get there. And yeah, I think I want to advocate for, you know, transforming myself into someone who acts with hope without a need for a happy ending, without a need for a grand quest, but just continuously acts with hope, because that's the side of humanity that I want to stand on in these times. And, you know, hope spreads hope, and I feel it in like the vibrations of the young people at this gathering, that like you're standing against so much separation, and like being told to look at your phones all the time, and like there's such a lot to stand against, and the revolutionary potential of young people, like getting like that. This is where transformation happens. Like all of the things that Stefan said that I did in my 20s, I did in my 30s. Now I'm just sitting writing books. But like it's really like we need that energy of the 20s and 30s to transform this world. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just. Because I think with the first question I felt still so impacted also by your stories, but I just remembered that actually in the imagination exercise, when you asked like what did you have to surrender, that was for me also so strong. And I think what I went through this week also was almost like I don't know, feeling discomfort, then feeling what a tragedy that so many things are like that, and then feeling also so much sadness, and then kind of realizing we just don't have the answers, or we don't have the answers. But actually also I had that in a conversation with another young person, that I mean, just honestly, when we think about climate change, when we think about that, our imaginations don't have the capacity to, our mind doesn't, to imagine a way out. And then, but then to, I don't know, after that, like in this conversation, I had a kind of feeling of humility and surrender came. And then I had the feeling suddenly, when you were in this position of realizing, okay, you really don't have the answers, then so many kind of teachers came, like, yeah.
Yeah. Do people resonate with that? So, I mean, I think we're speaking about this a lot, and a lot of what we've said connects with this. But what does it mean to you to have a radical imagination?
I think it becomes radical when you realize how limited it is. Because when you realize how limited it is, I don't know, you get a glimpse of possibility, how expanded it could be. Yeah, and I think what really makes it hard to imagine is so much. You talked about also like the colonization of the mind, that we think from our backgrounds, and I think we are especially inhibited of imagining when we think that we know a lot. I had this feeling. So when we already have the feeling we have many answers, then it's very hard to imagine a lot. So I'm so thankful for this week also, because I think I felt like so much pushed around, and so much, I had so many moments where I felt also a bit destroyed. And yeah, but I think in these moments you realize that there's so much more also.
Yeah, for me, a radical imagination. Yeah, I mean, I think I really want to be able to believe. I am so limited by the oppressors within me, and my imagination is so limited by these oppressors too. And also, like, I think if I'm thinking about a radical imagination, when I radically imagine, I want to decenter whiteness. I want to decenter cis patriarchy. I want to decenter heteronormativity. And to do this, there are also practical things we can do. So, like, when I was imagining what this gathering could look like, I mean, first of all, I imagined that it wouldn't happen in. I mean, I guess it's Gen Europe, so it has to happen in Europe. Okay, fine, it has to happen in Europe. But I was imagining that the people that were working on it would be funded, that they would be people from socioeconomic backgrounds that are different from maybe what is currently the case. I'm not actually speaking, I don't know what the socioeconomic background of Aurélie or Bernie is, but I would imagine that it would be something that would be led by BIPOC people, that would be led by queer and trans people, and that the programming would reflect that. In my radical imagination, I would want us to be speaking about not just the fact of the land and what it gives us, but also what has happened on this land. You know, this land has known genocide, and I haven't heard that said. This land currently is a stronghold of the AfD, the far-right party in Germany. You know, I went to the supermarket with my friend Talia, and I felt fine, but I was also aware that I was in a very conservative district, and that I'm pretty queer presenting, and that I was with an indigenous person. You know, we're not talking about these things in our workshops. I mean, maybe we are talking about them in our workshops, but not enough. And so my radical imagination, I guess I'm imagining, how are we practically transforming where we are? How are we recognizing the history of what humans have done to this earth here? And how are we decentering whiteness and other forms of privilege? Okay, I think we can do one last question, and then we can talk to everyone else. Is there one that you want me to ask you? Should we go for futuring and talking about?
Well, can I maybe just add a small thing to that? Because
please.
I think for futuring, I don't know how much I have to say.
Okay, then we're not going to do that one.
Well, maybe something could come, but there was something while you were talking that seemed very important, but I'm trying to
sit with it
to recall. That's what I wanted to say. So I think there's also, and I think I even want to read it out, because it's been also like a collective process of, writing and formulating together. And
maybe this is worth saying, is that Julio is a white man. There have been a lot of white men on this stage, but he is also here trying to represent the voices of Next Gen. And so let's just give Julio some thanks for attempting to integrate and humbly offering himself to the stage.
So I think a big part of radical imagination is, as we already talked about, this decolonizing the future and also our mind. And there's some phrases that actually other young people wrote when we brainstormed together that I found, so that we kind of found so impactful, and they resonated so much that I just want to read them and then say a little bit about it. So it is: decolonizing the future means making space for a world where many worlds fit, which is like a slogan also coming from the Zapatista movement from southern Mexico. Instead of a global monoculture. It means valuing indigenous knowledge alongside scientific knowledge, lived experience alongside expertise, and community wisdom alongside institutions. It means recognizing that regeneration without justice is incomplete. And then it also means questioning our movements, what we've talked about, who is missing, who feels they belong. I think this is also very important. Whose stories are still not being heard. And then, and I think that was especially, in some conversations, felt very strongly. And it also means questioning exploitation, like questioning the roots also of the problems, and also being radical in that sense. Radical comes from the word root, and I think that's an important part also from young movements to bring this radical aspect. So if you look at patriarchy, colonization, or all of these systems of oppression, at the root there's this idea that actually one can exploit another being, which stems from separation, the belief that we are not together. And I think, and it's also something what we talked about, if we don't look at the root, we will always have superficial fixes. So we will have, I don't know, renewables, and they are now expanding, and then we think now we are a bit safer. I don't know, nobody here believes it probably. But let's even imagine if we manage to, it was said 4 years we have to stop climate change. Let's just imagine that were possible. And if we didn't look at the root, which are these systems of oppression, which separation, exploitation are the root, then we will still be destroying in other ways, and we will never reach where we want to be. So another sentence which I want to read for that, which that it also means questioning exploitations, notions of supremacy, and every form of apartheid. And the root of apartheid is actually setting apart. And that also includes, and I don't know if this word exists, but we kind of felt it, this idea of human supremacy. So to feel that we are apart from and in any way better or different than the natural world which we are part of. I think if we don't start looking at that, we have so much we still need to look at.
Thank you. So we're going to give you a chance to say something or say some things. Hopefully you'll have some questions or some things you want to say. But before we do, I just want to share with you a practice and to invite you to join me in this practice. And it's a practice of promising. And I guess a promise is a commitment to the future. And this promise was written in about 15 years ago. There was an Ende Gelände action. Maybe it wasn't 15 years ago. Some years ago, there was an Ende Gelände action in the coal mines in the north of Germany. And I was there, and I got put with a little buddy group. And me and 4 people that I'd met the night before went with many hundreds of other people into a mine. And we climbed up mine stuff and dropped banners. And we were sat, me and these 4 people were sat for most of the day on a piece of mining infrastructure. And we were talking about how we can not burn out, how we can keep showing up. And we wrote a promise, which we made to each other. And since then, this promise has been shared in so many activist circles and spaces. I also got everybody at my wedding to say this promise to each other. It's a promise that I'm trying to get as many people as possible to say. So if you would join me in saying this promise, I think it works best if you say it to a person. So I'm going to turn and I'm going to say it to Julio, and Julio's going to say it back to me. And maybe you guys can find somebody, probably the person you're next to say this promise to, and maybe you have to get in a 3 because there isn't a 2 that you can comfortably sit with. And I'm going to invite you just to look at the person in front of you. So I'll give you a little moment to find the person that you're going to make a promise to. And you're going to do this as quietly as possible. And then I'm going to listen for you to quieten down, and that's when I'm going to know that you're ready to make this promise. So just a reminder to really look into the eyes of the person that you're promising. And then I'm going to say a bit, Julio's going to repeat it back to me, and you can follow this. So I'm going to say, I promise.
I promise.
That I will fight for all life.
Okay. That I will fight for all life. Shall I repeat?
And for you.
And for you.
And for our future.
And for our future.
As often as I can.
As often as I can.
Bang. That's it. Well done, guys.